Maybe. Good morning, good afternoon, or
Woo!
good evening, wherever you may be, because it's always time to drink rum, whether it be for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So,
That's not how that
welcome.
goes. That's the wrong thing.
So, I was a little bit worried in the beginning before we introduced our lovely guest. I was a little bit worried that we had our barflies climbing in through the window because we forgot to lock the door because they all showed up. So,
Right. Well, we changed the day, but it was important so that we could have our guests.
Well, and we also changed the decor. I mean, we've got the rum tiki bar thing
right.
going on.
They could have walked right on by.
Well, yeah, it was tough. I mean, moving that furniture, wicker hurts. I mean, it bothers. Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. So, how you doing?
And first of all, financial interest in this.
Let me do this real first. The onus for the rum battles in the finale was very much thankful to our guest today, Mr. Eric Goodwin. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for that introduction.
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. I'm the only one that is smoking tonight, apparently, because I wanted to see because rum, cigars, if I would have had a Panama hat and a guayabera, I would have worn that too, but I didn't have that. So, and I know that Steven's saying that he should get credit because he's here. No, you should be here.
So he should be here every week. The way we're doing them. Yeah. So we're gonna talk to Eric about his deep, slightly obsessive love of rum, but when we get to tasting, you're changing up how we're doing it this week.
Yes, because I mean, obviously you two are going to be tasting it like we did before, but we're going to score these, and they're going to be scored 1 to 5. And Eric and I talked, and we're kind of going to use Eric as a tiebreaker if we have to. But yeah, so we're going to have 1 through 5 on the nose, how it, the bouquet that you get. 1 through 5 on the palate, how it feels, your mouth feel and how it feels in your palate. And then the finish when you finally swallow, is it harsh? Is it smooth? Does it remind you of Haitian underwear? Whatever that may be.
Right. No, we excluded those last week, the Haitian underwear ones.
No, we don't know that or not. We don't know that. We don't know that for sure. So we've got 6 rums that we are going to be doing. And then we're going to average the scores for all 3 of us. And then the top 3 are the winners. So Dave, take it away.
Agreed, you got a tainted palate with the cigar, so
it's not a tainted. It's not a tainted palate. It's going to enhance. It's going to enhance the flavor of the rum. And actually, it's a good experiment because you remember what it was like to taste them before, and I do. But now with a cigar, I'm going to see if there's any flavor profiles that change. So this is scientific.
Hey, how did this one get ashtray in it? That's awesome. Yeah. So
this is a Padron. Wait a minute. Wait. This is a Padron. There is no ashtray in this cigar.
Yeah.
Okay.
So take us back to. I'm sure you had to have been at least 21.
Oh yeah.
Where did the love of rum start?
So it began in college after the age of 21. I was late to college a little bit, so some of you know this from playing a bingo game a few years ago now, but my wife is Haitian, and we've been together for 20 plus years. So back in college, starting to get a little taste, hanging out with the father-in-law to be, getting little sips of Barbancourt is the Haitian rum that gets exported, not the Clairin that you guys absolutely despised, which I completely understand. I was a little hurt in my soul, but I get it. That's an acquired taste that took me more than a decade of being actively part of a Haitian family to get there. So first sip for rum newbies, that's kind of painful, but yeah. So that was sort of the birth of it. And then I found out 2 great things about rum. One was it's really versatile. So whatever I was in the mood for, there was sort of a rum to match that mood. Any drink I wanted to make, I could find a rum that fit that drink. And so I could be a really kind of versatile, kind of fun bartender with really different flavors with 5 different bottles. And I didn't need a vodka, gin, a scotch. I could have 5 different rums that had completely different flavor profiles, and I could make all sorts of different drinks. So that was kind of fun. And then the other side of it, I'm in a profession where we're in school for a long time. I joke you do K through 12 and then you do it over again and then you're done before you start making money. So rum is cheap. Like the most expensive rums I gave you guys are like $60 bottles, and these are not.
Wow.
These aren't. They're not the bottom of the shelf, but they're not going to break your bank. Sure, if you want, there's a rum that just came out. It was hiding in a warehouse in Jamaica for 40 years rum, and they're releasing 300 bottles of it at $2,000 a bottle or something stupid like that. But most of the really premium, even the ultra premium rums, are coming in under $100 a bottle.
Wow.
Mostly in the $50 to $60 range. So
that's actually pretty good. Now let me ask you a real quick question, because it makes sense with what you said. Something you said about the fact with rum, you can mix it with almost anything, whether it be a tropical juice, whether it be something else. Because you've never heard in a bar somebody ask for a Scotch colada.
Yeah,
it just ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's just
yet.
I mean, somebody's worked on it. Some bartender has flamed out trying to make that happen.
Now as you know, in this show, we always end up at food, but I'm going to hit you first with, is Haitian food a lot like Puerto Rican food? Rice, beans, plantains, stuff like that?
Okay. So similar but different. So it's a lot more, Haitians would say piqué, but spicy. Picante, piqué.
Right.
So they definitely lean into the spice a lot more than Puerto Rican food. But you guys, you and Mark, not to blow up any spots, but on the cadre, have been talking about Puerto Rican Christmas, and
right.
What you guys call tostones, we call banane posé. So like pressed banana. So same method, green plantain.
Thing. Okay.
Press it, fry it once, dry it out, press it again. Yeah. Yep. So
good stuff.
All that stuff. Yeah, definitely a lot of that food carries over. There's a little more like New Orleans French influence in some of the cuisine than you get in Puerto Rico because of the colonial history there. But a lot of variations on a theme with Caribbean food.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We got a quick question from Ken. Please tell me you've at least tried cachaca Le Blanc. Makes a Long Island or a mojito.
Yeah, so cachaça I make for caipirinhas, not mojitos, but yeah, cachasas are nice. They're gonna hit a little bit fresher grass here. They're unaged. Most of them are unaged. They're Brazilian rum. If we're using the definition of rum is anything based on a sugarcane plant, this is rum. They call it cachaça. They insist it's a cane spirit, not rum, because I don't know why Brazil defines it differently, but I think they want ownership of this cool little niche market thing, and they can market it that way. But yeah, Le Blanc is good, and P2 has been very good, and there's another one, Novo Fogo, is also really good, and they make a lot of different varieties of that. And I'm sure I'm butchering the Portuguese because I don't speak any Portuguese, but yeah.
So when you're drinking at home, do you tend to mix into a cocktail, or do you tend to drink straight, or what's your preference?
I like it all. And that's what's nice about rum is like I can have a sipper night and I just don't want to do any work. And I pull a sipping bottle, or if I want a little cocktail, a lot of rum cocktails are real easy. Sugar, lime juice, rum. And then you're just changing the kind of sugar, the kind of rum. Like if you do it that way, you get a daiquiri. If you do it a different way, you get a tea punch. If you do it a different way, you get it, you get a caipirinha. That's essentially what a caipirinha is too. So just depending on which of those you're putting white sugar or the demerara, the more flavorful turbinado sugar is like sugar in the raw. If you guys get that brand, that's going to be heavier. So you're going to put that with a heavier rum, but you just mix variations of sugar, lime juice, rum, and you've got a cocktail that's delicious and endlessly drinkable. So.
Oh.
So you split the rums that you hand delivered to us into two groups.
Yep.
The aged group and the ones based more on fermentation.
Yep.
And I think what that proved is if you don't age a rum, it tastes terrible. Because the aged ones were great, right?
So
he's not biased at all. Not at all.
It was scientific. It was blinded. Yeah.
So I gave you some aged what I would consider more fermentation flavor forward, but let the aging kind of kill those flavors, or not kill those flavors, but mute some of the harshness of those flavors. And you guys, interestingly, those were your 3 winners from that week, were the 3 fermentation forward rums that got aged a little bit. So I think that the raw unaged stuff is something you work yourself up to, but it's not something that comes naturally to most people.
So in other words, it is very similar, because Dave and I are both pretty big Scotch connoisseurs, for lack of a better term. And I think it's the same thing. You work into, you start out with your space side light, smooth scotches, and then you slowly but surely move up into smoke wagons and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, and I'm sure it's the same way with rum, you get a taste for that really strong, for instance, in Scotch, you get that peaty strength, which I would equate to those non-aged rums, kind of the same type of atmosphere. And so, it's just getting to that point, where you're craving that. But another quick comment from Stephen. I use rum bourbon quart in a dark and stormy. He calls it a shipwreck.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, that's good. Goslings will be after you. They actually trademarked that name, Dark and Stormy. If you don't use a Goslings, they have lawyers at the ready. So
that's okay. Steven's used to getting sued. He's used to that.
So did any of the notes that we had or comments we had on any of the rums surprise you, or was it kind of what you would have expected?
So you guys had one really interesting progression with a rum that you initially tried, and you guys kind of said, kind of one note, not so thrilled. And then when you went back to rate it on second sip, you both gave it really high scores, and it's in our finals tonight. So I'm excited to see where you guys go with that one, because that's one that for me was a gateway. Like, this was like my introduction, probably, early 2000s into the world of ultra premium rum. And now when I drink it, I find it very one note and very kind of
interesting,
not much of a journey. So it was interesting to watch you guys go, and then go, oh, but maybe it's really good.
Maybe we can teach you something then.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. And then now, will you take any of these rums that are in the finals? Would any of these be considered mixable rums, or are any of them just specifically sipping rums in your palate?
So for me, anything, you can mix with anything. So, it's your booze, drink it how you want it. And, you've already paid the money. If you want to take, I don't know, some ultra rare Scotch and throw it in a Rob Roy, great, that's on you. You're making that life choice. So right. I feel the same way about my bottles of rum here. There are some I can't get anymore. The production has gone away, or it was a one-time offering. And then I stopped, being able to get it. So those ones I like to tend to just reserve for a special sip. But most anything else, I'm perfectly happy throwing one of these in a punch and a cocktail if that's the thing that's going to make that drink. Sure, use the good stuff. I don't care.
Now, what did you use when you did your flaming rum punch the other day?
That is the Plantaray brand makes something called OFTD, Old Fashioned Traditional Dark Overproof, and it's a rum designed to mimic. And they hired a bunch of cocktail historians, and they looked back at old recipe books. So it's designed to mimic the rum of the 1800s. That was used almost exclusively in mixing. So you can dilute it down, but it still has a lot of flavor, and it still has a big punch to it. So I can flame, I lit that on fire for 3 minutes and then put it out, and people are still going, oh, I taste, it's hitting kind of hard. You didn't burn off all the booze just by doing that.
Right.
And then, so that was that rum, and then a bottle of cognac and some lemon peels. The heat actually pulls the oil out of the lemon peel and mixes it into the cocktail, and then you dilute it with a lot of water and sugar.
Nice.
It was nice. Yeah.
Well, Dave, should we get to tasting?
Sure, let's do that.
And
so our first rum is
L. We're
going
to be blind through them until we score, right? And then
right.
And so, Eric, you're happy to make comments, but not what it is.
Yeah, don't tell us yet. Yeah, don't tell us yet.
And then maybe one thing you can talk about when you find the time is you sent me the tasting notes that I'd put on the slides when we first tasted, but I left off because Dave certainly did not want to know where they were from, but some of them said like Spanish heritage, British heritage, and I didn't know at the time if that meant where it was from, and it didn't. And so if you could maybe talk about what that means.
Yeah. So a really smart guy, this guy who calls himself the Cocktail Wonk, Matt Pietrek. I think I'm saying his last name right. He also runs a blog called Rum Wonk, but he once was asked, like, is there a good way to categorize rum? And the answer basically is like, no. Every way that people have come up with is being like, oh, I'll sort cars by color. Like, great, there are a lot of red cars in the world, but that doesn't help me. Or like four-wheel cars, or like there are all these really clunky descriptors, but we don't have a really nice way of categorizing rum. So some people like Nurse Dave up by you, there's a wonderful bar called Smuggler's Cove, like 20 minutes from your house, which I would recommend. It's like a major tiki mecca for people in the tiki sphere. And they wrote a book which actually won like a James Beard Bougie Cooking Award for you, called Smuggler's Cove. And in that book, because they're making drinks all day, they actually break rum down by like flavor profile. So they don't care where it's from or how it was made. They just care this is what it tastes like.
It's funny you mention that, because here in Tucson, we've got one of the oldest tiki bars in the world. It's Con Tiki. And they do, and it's literally, it looks just like our background. I mean, in the food they serve, in the drinks they serve, everything is rum forward. If you go into that bar and ask for scotch, they'll probably cut your head off. So it's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and move on to L. Yeah. So this is L. The one thing I notice about L right out of the gate, it's got a beautiful golden color.
Dark.
And it's got, I know that I remember this one now. This has got what I call a plum prune type of palate. I love the way this smells.
And this one I got some like nail polish alcohol, like straight alcohol, rubbing alcohol.
I don't get that. I just get sweet. I get tropical fruit. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's delicious. I love the way it feels on the palate. It's a little bit of heat, but when it goes down, I get some. I want to say, to me, it's a caramel-esque, like a burnt caramel.
I got apples on this one right off the bat. As soon as it hit my tongue, yeah. But certainly fruit. Again, much more enjoyable than last week. Yeah.
So why don't we do this, Dave? We'll go ahead and score. We'll go ahead and score them. Score each one, but we won't tell what we scored them at.
That's fair. And you know what? I remember, and I can't wait to get to it, because one of these from last week I thought had a lot of cinnamon on the aftertaste. It like just burned like a red hot. I'm getting some cinnamon at the end of this one, which I love that. Okay,
that was very good.
I got my score in. Right, so, Eric, I guess it's not fair to ask you if you like that one. You like all of these.
Yeah, I honestly didn't send you anything I wouldn't pull off the shelf and drink myself. Neat.
Okay.
But I can see now. Let me without saying what it is. And this will be an interesting thing from you. So you know what L is, obviously. Yeah. What kind of, with those flavor profiles, what would you mix that with, or would that you kind of would keep as a sipping rum?
It's designed to be a sipper. They market it as a sipper.
That makes sense.
Though you could do it in more of like an after dinner drink, which doesn't really lend itself to a lot of cocktails, but I think it has a sweetness that lets you use it, pair it as an after dinner kind of, like you would a sweet wine after a meal.
Like a port or something like that.
Yeah. And actually in Paris at a very nice wine and food restaurant, they actually had that on the menu as one of the wine dessert pairings, which I thought was really interesting, which was cool.
Now, do you ever, when you're drinking your rums neat, do you ever add an ice cube or two to change any of the profile at all? Because that, to me, that one would change quite a bit with an ice cube.
Yeah, absolutely. I usually keep a glass of cold water and I'll dip my pinky in and then just let like 2 or 3 drops go in, swirl them around, see if that opens it up. A lot of rum opens up really well with a single ice cube. So if there's any rum that feels really tight, you don't think you're getting the flavors, dropping an ice cube in, letting it melt a little bit, swirl it around and take another taste, and you'll find everything kind of opens up really nicely.
Now, I will tell you, Dave, it did not, the flavors, I remember L, and the flavors were only enhanced with the cigar.
Only enhanced. Way to justify, Dave. I love you, buddy. All right, so we're on to F. F is the next one. It's a little lighter in color than L was.
Yeah, it's more of a, like almost a wheat color, maybe.
So this is lighter sweetness. It's sweet, but not as strong on the nose.
Yeah, I don't get a lot on the nose.
But brown sugar.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that. Or more that turbinado, that pure cane.
Well, excuse me.
Hey, I'm just using the vernacular, I mean.
I'm trying to use the name brand sugar.
Hey, I kissed a goat yesterday. Yeah, I'm just trying to be smart.
All right, here we go.
All right, let's go. To me, this one was much more. This was thicker on the palate to me, and I'm getting a butterscotch is what I'm getting on this one.
I'm gonna need another sip. To me, this was all finish. Like the initial on the palate, there wasn't a lot there.
I'm trying to see. I'm getting all butterscotch right now on the palate, and in the swallow, and it was very smooth on the finish. It didn't burn at all to me.
Yeah, I hear you on that. To me, this is more one note than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, what are we missing on that one? What would you be tasting?
So I think this one to me, interestingly, you talk about cinnamon. This one to me is very spice forward. So when I drink this, I immediately think of like a hot tamales candy. Actually, it has like a drier, waxier feel in the mouth. Again,
oh wow, that's interesting because I'm getting more. To me, believe it or not, this one is sweeter to my palate than the first one, and the butterscotch just boom hits me.
I think the first one may have primed you guys, yeah. But the ABV is about the same on both. I think they're both around 40.
Now
that's good though. I like that. I like the way that's a very
in the Scotch world. You do drink barrel strength stuff, straight from the barrel. But I know rums too are aged in a warmer climate. So do they sell barrel strength, and what does that tend to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So rum, you guys in the Scotch world are kind of lucky in that Scotch is made in Scotland, which means there's one government that tells you, the makers, how you can make Scotch and can set rules that apply. Rum is made all over the world in any place that you can get molasses. So the US, like actually the big center for US rum production pre-prohibition was Massachusetts, where they haven't grown a lick of cane sugar ever, but they could get molasses cheap from the Caribbean and do all the fermentation up there. So anywhere you can ship molasses, you can make local rum. And so every country in the world has a different definition, has a different set of rules, regulations. And you'll go to some countries like Barbados, for example, is very pure about, you can't call it Barbados rum unless it's made in Barbados and aged here. And, you added no flavors, you added no colors. You go, 50, 100 miles to the next island over, all those rules are moot and they can do whatever they want over in that island, so it changes place to place.
Is that similar like in, obviously in the watch world, for a watch to be called Swiss made, 51% of the watch has to be produced, made, assembled in Switzerland? Is it kind of the same type of thing with the Barbados thing where it's got to be all done here?
Depends on your country. And some of the people who follow the rules are pushing really hard for their government to say like, hey, this is Barbados. If you're going to say product of Barbados, it has to be from cane that was grown here. And then we did the fermenting, we did the distilling, we did the aging, the bottling, the works. And they're very big into purity. So you can't, any color you see in the bottle, and I was debating when to bring this up, but any color you see in a rum bottle typically is designed to be that color. It wasn't naturally aged.
Oh, okay.
So somebody it depends on the country. If you're getting something from Barbados, that's the color because they're not allowed to add any colorants. And other countries are like this as well that say, nope, these are the rules. You can't add any color. But you go to other places. So Jamaica is a prime example for this. that caramel, Jamaican caramel that you can buy to color your food. They throw that in the rum. And so they want it to be dark rum. Great, here's your dark rum. And you want it to be white rum? Okay, we just won't throw in that tablespoon of caramel, and you'll be fine.
Wow.
So you guys are coming from a place of knowledge of one government and their very strict rules. It has to be aged 3 years and this and that. Most places that make rum, it's more pirate country where you do what you want.
So basically, rum is a lot like bourbon then.
I had to say
that for the bourbon people.
Yeah, no.
And real quick, I have to add. Yeah. Well, Dave, are you done with your scoring for that one?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I got to say one thing to Steve real quick. Steve, when you come to Tucson and get your shave and your haircut, we'll go out to Kon-Tiki for dinner. I'll take you to Kon-Tiki for dinner.
All right.
The food's been the same.
Rum
E. Okay. E.
So I've been holding these up like the color meant something about that. So forget that.
Well, no, because you got to, come on, color,
Yeah, it's the atmosphere. That's true. It feels better to me to drink a beautiful versus a clear drink, but
I'm getting mucho fruit on this one. Yeah, I'm getting. It's weird on the fruitiness. I always seem to get the plum or the prune.
This one's the one that smelled like bourbon to me. I remember that one of them smelled. Like bourbon.
This doesn't smell like bourbon. You know what this smells like to me? It smells like cigar malt from Dalmore a little bit on the nose. But I just go. Well, it's funny. When I went like this, I got apple. Seriously, when I brought it away, I got a little bit of apple. In fact, now that I've said that, I'm getting nothing but apple.
But all right, I don't want to know, but I remember some of the stuff, at least one or two, were aged in sherry casks, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious if this is one of those.
Okay, let's find out. Much hotter to me on this one. It's much hotter on the palate.
See, me, this you could.
This is linear.
In this glass, and I would have.
Really?
Yeah. It's a little too. It's got that corn sweetness that I'm not down for.
See, to me, I'm tasting the sherry sweetness. I really am. I'm tasting a sherry, almost a brandy-esque feeling to it.
All right,
but much hotter on the finish. To me, it's a little bit. I will agree with you on the bourbon. On the bourbon feel on the palate. We'll let the bourbon. Ken likes bourbon.
Okay, so we're into those were the top three from the first week. Now we're shifting to the top three from the second week. So, Eric, the tough question is, so somebody like us that really doesn't know from rum to rum, if we know that we like that first week much better than the second week, is there any way that we could go into like Total Wine and know that we're picking something that's similar to those?
Yeah, we can definitely get into kind of interpreting a label. I'll go back. So of the first three you've had, two were Spanish heritage style. What does that mean? That's one of these like bad descriptors, but basically looking back in colonial history, what country colonized this part of the world is sort of what that refers to. And they developed independent traditions of making rum that were tied back to the mother country and the tastes there. So Spanish style production, this is when you're going to think of Bacardi, where you're basically going to distill this down to almost pure grain alcohol. Like I think the US defines pure grain alcohol as like 95% ABV, and EU defines it as 96% EBV. These distillers are intentionally bringing that cane sugar product to that level, and then starting with a neutral, like grain neutral spirit, and then aging the flavor into it. So like Bacardi, actually, like Bacardi White, you think of as like the vodka of the rum world, and that's because it is. It's basically a vodka you've created from rum. They're just off the shelf Bacardi White label is subsequently despised by many rum drinkers because it has no qualities associated with a good rum. Right. They do make like selection from the Master's Selection, Selección de Maestros, and others that where they age some flavor back into it. And And they're actually aging it for at least 1 to 3 years, but it's clear because they carbon filter it, and that just strips it of the color. So again, color in rum is this sort of lies to you thing where your brain might say, oh, white, unaged. Well, no, actually it's been aged for several years. They just strip the color out of it by putting it through a special charcoal filter, which they say they like that result. They want that result. That's the intended goal, is to give you a clear rum that still has a lot of rum flavor in it.
Well, I know I joked about this because, like in Puerto Rico, it's weird. In Puerto Rico on Saturday nights when everybody's playing dominoes, it's Finlandia vodka. That's it. I mean, Finlandia is what. And as far as if you bring a bottle of Bacardi, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Don Q is usually the one that people really go to. But my question is, we had a Zoom call last Sunday, and this subject came up. Is Bacardi 151 no longer in production? Do you know? Somebody said that it was no longer in production. I did not know that, and I didn't think that was true, but I don't know.
I don't think it is. You can get Don Q 151. That's still out there in production, for Puerto Rican rums. Right. And then a lot of, like, Guyana has Lemon Heart 151, which is actually delicious and completely overproof and flammable, and something I couldn't hand deliver to you folks for fear of my own safety.
Well, I'm going to write that. I remembered the name Lemon Heart from my college days as something I really liked.
So Lemon Heart's an interesting one. It's made in Guyana, and actually they add enough of that caramel flavor coloring to change the flavor, and it's completely overproof. So it's a really interesting rum. Can be hard to find, but it's sort of one of those unique bottles on the shelf that if you taste it, you go, oh, this is, I get why people are into this.
Before we move on to H, is there any countries that rum is produced on that no one would ever think that rum would be produced in?
Italy.
Really? Okay.
So Italy and probably India is not one that comes to mind, but Indians have been brewing or distilling a spirit from sugarcane because it's been there forever. There's evidence of it going back to the Mughals in the 1200s that they were making sugarcane spirit, which we call rum now. So they've been doing that in India for 800 years. And then sugarcane moved from India into the Mediterranean. So it hit Sicily and then the Azores and the Canary Islands, and before Columbus brought it over on voyage 2. So you can actually go and find some Sicilian rum if you want, and it's perfectly legitimate rum that they've been making from sugarcane grown on Sicily for, hundreds of years, 500 years at this point. Oh, wow,
that's pretty cool.
But yeah, nobody thinks of Italy for rum. It's not not a spot that most go to.
Yeah. All right, Dave, you ready to move to H?
H. Well, not really.
Very light colored, very, almost a very, very goldenrod almost.
We call this
very
wheat
sweet.
Color, Dave. We call
very sweet. Color. What's that?
Wheat color.
Very sweet.
But it kind of astringent too. It's sharp.
I get green apple, like a Granny Smith apple.
Yeah. And some honey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad. Not bad.
Strong on the palate and through the nasal, using the olfactory. Little harsh on the finish, I think.
Oh.
I want to say it's almost licorice on the finish. That's what I'm getting anyway.
Yeah, that's
like
got
licorice. It's got a bite.
Tart or bitter, something like that. The palate's actually not bad. I remember not liking any from last week. This one, not a lot of green apple.
Yes.
Yeah, but that finish, that's too bad. I think the palate is fine, but you don't want to swallow it.
Okay, right, so again, without telling us, since we've moved on to the H rum, would this be considered a Hogo rum or no?
This is a funkier rum. So Hogo, yeah, that you're saying that right. And as I think Rich pointed out last week, it's short for haut goût, which is French for high taste. They used to let meat kind of intentionally spoil a day or so and then cook it, and they thought it added a high flavor to it, a high taste to it, and this is meant to emulate that. Certainly not modern standard culinary
I
practice.
I will say one point. This is a rum that I would not pair a cigar with. Because that finish, and then you take the mouthful of cigar and it goes, we don't like each other. that I noticed right out of the gate. Woo! But by itself, it's good. Now, would this be one that you would mix with something, Eric?
This is more of a mixer for me. And I do like it in anything that calls for a lightly funky rum. This is a really nice choice to add. And it's funny, funk or hogo, like people say they don't like it, and when they drink high hogo, high ester rums, where it's a lot of rotten banana kind of flavors, people say they hate it, but if you mix it well in a punch, that's the thing that takes your rum punch from like, yeah, it's okay, to people going like, God, I can't wait to drink another glass of this stuff.
Well,
because it's just hiding there enough to make it interesting.
See, this to me would be very interesting in a pina colada. Because that funk would bring out the pineapple a little bit more, and the acidity of it, maybe.
Yeah, you definitely can pair these things, and the great tiki bars have been doing this for 50 plus years, and they know how to do, or I guess 90 years closer to. But Don the Beachcomber and those guys, and they, as I think somebody pointed out in the comments, but like the original, like Mai Tais and things were being made with aged funky rums. So rums that started very funky, then got some of that funk aged out of them. And they were perfect for these cocktails because they do pair really well with sweetness, and they add depth. That funk adds just a little bit of like interest and depth to the cocktail and keeps you wanting more.
So the hogo is almost, if you're going to make a comparison, almost like the peat in a scotch.
I think that's the flavor. Yeah.
Not the flavor, but just the fact that, because you have some scotches that are very low peated, and then you have some that are very high peated. And I can see where this could be that. The one thing I do notice about this one more so than all the other ones, even when using a palate cleanser, it sticks with you. It sticks with you. Not that that's necessarily horrible, but okay. So before we move to I want to ask a question.
Drink, Dave.
Oh, stop. You've got plenty. This is this is not about drinking. It's about education. Right, wait till you hear my question. Then you'll say, oh yeah, really, education. So all the rum that Captain Jack Sparrow was talking about, in all the movies, would that be more of a bargain basement? Just, okay, we distilled it, we put it in barrels, we sent it out on the ship. It would be a funky rum, I assume.
Yeah, that's what they claim. So the grass forward rums that you're drinking, it depends on the ship they capture, right? So if it's a French ship, you're going to get a grassier rum like that. If you're capturing a Spanish ship, it'll be more of what you guys had those first two.
Okay, that makes sense.
And English were known for the funkiness. So a lot of the English heritage brands, that's where the funk came from. Almost everyone agreed rum tasted better back in England than it did in the Caribbean. So you gain something from shipping it and then letting it age on the voyage. And then actually the typical practice back in Britain was to just leave it on the dock for 2 years or so.
Well, you had a little bit of scurvy and a little bit of scurvy notes and stuff. That would be, wonderful. So are you ready? Did you already move on to I without me, Dave?
I'm busy. No, I'm rescoring.
Okay. All right. So let's go to I. Very nice color, I think. Very nice color. Uh-oh. We're in trouble. We're in trouble, Will Robinson. We're in trouble.
Now I need to.
This is smoky to me. If somebody just handed this to me,
it is pretty.
In fact, I remember from last week, this is the one that I compared to Cardias. I compared this to Lafroig because it is smoky.
And this is a Navy strength. So you'll get this is 55.7, 55.4 ABV. So but you've been drinking.
You get the smokiness, but there's an underlying funk to it, and I can't figure out what that is. Very sweet on the palate. Wow, that's a flavor explosion. Holy crap.
God.
I like that, actually.
Do you? It's thick. It's super thick on the tongue.
But there's a sweetness that just punches out. I'm experimenting here.
Well, I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to remember which one was the cinnamon one, and I don't want to be thinking it's it because I'm trying to find it. But
see, after taking the second sip, it was much stronger on the palate, but I got an explosion of sweet apricot is what I got on that.
Oh,
the finish was fine.
That's so weird. It is a dichotomy between nastiness and beautiful sweetness.
Well, what's funny though is if you look at your glass as opposed to some of the other ones, this one tears. This one tears a lot more. In other words, it's thicker. Actually, that's not. This reminds me if rum and scotch had a soiree at 3:00 in the morning, and this would be their baby.
Does this answer Rich's question? Which one has cherub tears?
This seems like a scotch rum mashup to me.
I don't know.
Smell your empty glass. It's going to smell. It smells like Lafroig to me. Smell your empty glass. It smells like Lafroig.
It smells beautiful. That's the thing. It smells beautiful. You get it in your mouth, and there's some rotten on the outside of the tongue and a beautiful sweetness down the middle of the tongue, which is certainly very interesting. If you want to experience interesting, but you gotta. All right.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Last one. Then I got a follow-up question for Eric before we.
You want to go right into the last one? All right.
Yeah.
All right. And then if you'll do me a favor, Eric, because I did include you on there, go ahead and score yours, and we'll put your scores last just to see how they came out. So this one's wheat colored. Okay.
This is all honey.
Steven, this is a family show. I smell honey. Yeah, completely honey.
But it's nice. It's kind of one note, but it's very pleasant.
Yeah, see, to me, this is linear. To me, it's honey.
I was just going to say super thin.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't remember. There really isn't. The funk comes on the aftertaste after a while. Like,
yeah, but not, yeah.
Just,
it's boring. To me, this is the lightest, or in my mouth, it appears to be the lightest. I shouldn't have said that because I know Steven's going to make a comment as soon as I said in my mouth, but, yeah, this one's very, very just okay. It's not something that'll knock your socks off, but it's not bad though.
Yeah. So what's weird is, so I must have been that cinnamony one. All right. So Eric, I was curious. You're talking about this being made all over the world, and I'm very much into red wines, and the location makes a huge difference, even if you make the wine exactly the same way. And I think I mentioned on one of these shows in a past one, I've tasted wines, same grape varietal, same manufacturer, everything except different sides of the road, and the soil was different, and you could taste the differences. But there's so many more variables, I think, in rum. So do you notice basic differences from country to country based on area and climate, or is it just too complex for that to be specific to location?
So if you go into the world of Martinican rums, where they're making rum agricole, which is like the agricultural rum, which is the unprocessed. They cut the cane. The cane within an hour has been pressed, and that juice is getting brought to the fermenter. There you can taste the varietals. I think you can actually with the Haitian clans that you guys didn't like that one, but I have they bottled a series of 5 of those. I have 4 of the 5, and they tell you like these guys are growing this varietal of cane in this part of the country, and you 100% taste the differences of like up in the hills versus down by the beach, and you can taste those differences for sure. Everything else, so like cane syrup based rums and molasses based rums, that's like an ultra processed food in some ways. Like the locale of it has been sort of processed out to get the table sugar out, and you're left with the byproduct, and then you're using that byproduct to make your thing. So you're going to get a lot of character that's country specific, but that's going to be traditions of fermentation and aging, not in the way you're thinking of like, hey, grapes grow on two sides of a road. One gets 3 hours of shade, the other gets 7 hours of shade. What's the difference?
Yeah.
That you get that in Martinique. If you can get your head around that grassy flavor, you will get to that place. And they bottle them differently. You can find, blue cane Martinican rum, and you'll go and buy that, and you can buy different varietals and taste that. Yeah, sorry, Barber Dave.
No, that's fine. All the rums, regardless of what we tasted, at some point in time, they spend a little bit of time in a barrel, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so if they do, and I'm just thinking, of like what Dave was saying about the locales, whether it be the Caribbean, the Antilles, wherever it may be, the Northern Caribbean, sea salt, air, sand, all those have to have some type of environmental effect on these rums, as opposed to where in Scotland you've got rain, peat bog, rain, more rain, and maybe a redheaded person, so, but you see what I'm saying, that the coastal flavors of a rum, to me, would depend, because obviously if you go into the interior of an island, it's very much rainforest and stuff like that. Whereas if the distillery like Bacardi is pretty much right on the beach in San Juan,
Yep.
that you get those type of flavors that would affect. Is that fair in saying that?
I think certainly that's part of it. And I was looking there's a wonderful book for anyone who's super serious about this stuff called Modern Caribbean Rum that this guy put out. You can buy it on his website. So not a sponsor, but definitely a shout out to him. He has pictures of these distilleries, and even I'll just bring up the cover again. That's a cane field. There's the ocean.
Right.
So like, if you don't think that these things are playing a role, like, yeah, and there was one image of a distillery I was looking for where literally it's like the distillery bought the beachfront property. They are on the beach, and then there's this gigantic industrial rum making production facility there.
Right.
Yeah, certainly they age them there, and they try to keep that character around. But some of the rum you're drinking today is actually from highlands of South America, Central America, where you're very far away from the ocean at that point.
So very much
up in the mountains.
Yeah, so you get that moisture and that, for lack of a better term, I don't want to say mold, but you get that dampness.
Yeah,
that you get. So if you want me to, I'll tell you what mine are, Dave. First,
tell me your scores.
So for number one, L,
yeah,
scored a 15, perfect score.
What?
Perfect score.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Number two was 13, and it was I, believe it or not, is the way that I scored that one. Number three was F at a 10.
Whoa. No. Oh, hold on. Just go down the line, because I got to add them. What was F?
Okay. F was a 10.
10
for me.
Okay. But
E? That was number 3 overall. And
okay.
E, H, and D were all tied at 9. Those all tied for me.
Yeah. What was I?
I was 13. It ended up number 2 on my list.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let me add these up. So we got 26. So that averages 13, and 23. So that's 11 and a half, and 20 is 10.
Yeah. See, I don't know what your scores are because I can't average it yet. So
I'm doing it for you, buddy.
Oh God, I love you.
Yeah. Okay.
You did call me your girlfriend earlier. So
okay. So we do have. I'm glad this worked out. We do have one that was clearly the winner. Okay, so should we start from the bottom?
Well, wait a minute. Well, that's our winner. Let's see how Eric scored.
Yeah, well, Eric has the right answer. It's like the cheat sheet.
No,
okay.
no, I know. I don't think so.
That's right.
I think you guys can tell me yours, and then I'll insert my color commentary
so
as we go.
I think number 1 was L. Do you agree, Dave?
Well, wait, you want to start with the winner?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that was the winner.
Okay.
Okay, so but let's reveal from the bottom up, though.
Okay. All right.
The worst one was H for us.
Well, it was tied for me, but yeah.
Okay, but us, the average score. You wanna, Eric? You got all these in front of you, right?
Yep, I'll pull up the bottle. So H for you guys from Jamaica. This is Jamaican Rum Bar Gold, made by Worthy Park Estate. Worthy Park Estate, pretty funky, interesting place. They are an English heritage, so on Jamaica, so they're coming from a place of English heritage. A lot of what they make, unlike most English heritage places, is actually cane juice based, not molasses based. So you're tasting their cane that they grow on their fields. They ferment it. It's also known to be one of the funkiest. Hampton is usually seen as the funkiest places out there, where they really use that muck, like those graves where they just throw whatever. And legend has it, like, dead goats and bats and stuff were found in muck pits in the past, where then they just add that back in and just say,
notice how he waits to tell us about dead goats and bats until we're done.
Yeah, we would have pulled those notes out if he told us.
Before distillation. So that stuff all gets filtered out, unless you're drinking the tails like you were in Puerto Rico. Then you might have gotten some goat head stew. But,
that's true, probably.
Yeah. So yeah, that's your lowest score. And for me, this one has a very whiskey like nose to me, like a bourbon whiskey start for my palate. I like it for the funk. I don't love it to sip neat. This one is almost always a mixer in something. It's a great planter's punch. So take some black tea, some lime juice, some sugar, and this stuff, and you mix those in a mix. That's really good. So one of they say 1 of sour, 2 of sweet, 3 of strong, 4 of weak. So that's how you make your planter's punch. So
that would be interesting to try this. Now that we know that, Dave, try that in a mixer and see if that changes our opinion at all.
Yeah. So 1 part lime juice, 2 parts sugar, like simple syrup, 3 parts of this stuff, and 4 parts of black tea, like an English breakfast tea is very nice. And it gives you a buzz as it knocks you out, so it lets you go all afternoon, which is wonderful.
Exactly.
All right, so you had 3 that tied for the bottom. That was one of them. And
so whichever one you want to, which one was?
H.
D.
The lowest scoring for me. So the next one, we both scored a 9, and that would be D.
D. All right. D is Haitian rum barbancourt, what they call the 5 étoiles, which is aged 8 years. This one, 2 of the barbancourts I usually mix with this one. There's another level up called Reserve du Domaine, the state reserve, which is 15 years aged. That to me is the legit sipper. You get a lot more depth. You get a lot more flavor. I agree that this is going to be a little lighter on the palate, a little thinner probably, and a little more one note. But
basically what you said is exactly what we got. The bourbon, the light feel, the linear. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, we're good at this.
I mean, I've come to love this stuff. I drink it. This is my weekend every time I'm with my in-laws, where somebody's got this around and pouring a drink of it. But I will mix this version. The 15 is a straight sipper for me.
Okay. So those 2 were from the second day. No surprise. What's weird is the next one is from the first day, which means there's one from that second day that scored even higher. So the next one for us is E.
Right. Correct.
All right. E is Guyanese El Dorado. Don't let the Spanish name fool you. This is completely produced by an English-speaking country. They just call it El Dorado. They put it in 3 languages down here in case you can't figure out that rum and rum is the same thing. So they're selling to every market they can think of, minus the Germans, I guess. But this stuff, I think this is the most well-rounded of all the things I sent you. If I have to do like a blind, I'm tired, but I would like a drink tonight, this is the bottle I reach for a lot. This just hits a lot of notes for me. It's smooth. It's a little sweet. It's got a little funk at the end to it, hiding in there. It is made.
Is that the one, Dave, where I said that there is a funk hidden in there somewhere? Is that the same? I think that was.
I think you said that about the rum bar.
One.
Yeah, that rum bar gold. But this has it in there too. It's just a lot more muted. And this is a bottle that's going to cost like 20 something bucks. So you don't feel bad pouring a glass or 2 after a long day. So I think this is really well-rounded and very balanced. If you get the 15, it actually gets sweeter as it gets older, and I don't like that about it. And then the 21 and 25-year-olds are just too expensive to buy in this country, so it's not worth it.
Right.
12 is hits that sweet spot. There's a younger one in 8, and there's an even younger a 3. Never really loved those, but I think 12 just hits all the right notes for me as a drinker. I like this one.
Okay. So far, based on what we've said and what you've said, Eric, we're pretty much, our palates are pretty dead on. I mean, obviously the EH and the D are something we would probably grow into, kind of like the Scotch.
Yeah.
Now, what did you put as number 3, Dave? I think we're different there, aren't we?
1, 2. I have 3 tied for my third place, and that was one of them. Yeah.
Okay. See, I have F. I have F as my third. That scored a 10 for me.
Yeah.
What did F score for you?
13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But that is our next one. That is third place overall.
Yeah.
Average score would be F.
Okay.
All right. So this one was the heartbreaker. This is our Puerto Rican rum.
Oh, wow.
That's
well,
the one I have at home that I mixed with Coke Zero.
Yeah, the Rondel Barrilito 3-star. This is primo. In the world of the Spanish heritage rums, this is probably one of my favorite ones.
Where is that distilled at? Is it in Ponce or is it in San Juan?
No, it's outside of San Juan. It's in Bayamon.
Bayamon. Okay, yeah, it's just south of. Okay.
So it's an easy. If you ever go to San Juan, go to this place. They have a bar on site, which is phenomenal. They make amazing drinks in all of San Juan, but especially at this bar. And then they do 2 kinds of tours. You can go on a tasting tour where they show you the hacienda. They actually don't distill on site anymore. They do all their distilling and cane growing elsewhere, but they do all their aging on site. So you get to visit the aging vats, and that room smells amazing.
Because I know that Bayamon itself is basically a concrete jungle. I mean, it's all city. Yeah. It's all city because my mom lived there for a little while too. But that's interesting. Yeah,
this estate is very much kind of walled. You can tell it's like a concrete jungle. This is like the last little enclave of not that. Some other amazing things about this rum. One of the founders, this Edmundo Fernandez, who used to own this until they sold it off when the last family member passed away. They actually sold it off with a lot of stipulations that they keep doing it the right way, the original way, blah, blah, blah. They laid down a barrel when the U.S. took control of Puerto Rico and said, you can only open this in the middle of the square of Bayamon when we gain our independence. So there is a cask there.
That's right. It's still there. Wow.
Untouched since they laid it down on that condition, and they still swear that they're going to throw a big party if that ever happens. So
yeah, don't think that's going to happen, but
that's fine. Nobody's drunk it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting for the scores is that was my number 1. But Dave, you got it wrong and ranked it low enough to pull it down to number 3.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So just so you know, Dave, I'm going to tell my family that I was stupid and that you were the smart one, and then that way that should save me from getting my throat cut.
Okay. So for average scores, number 2 for us was I, which is weird because that was from Funky Second Day.
Right.
Yeah, and you both mentioned, and this does have sweet, and this does have funk. This is the one that you're saying like is both sweet and funky, and this is it comes in this really extravagant little paper, not paper. Sorry, this is grass of some sort, but this is Plantaray, which is an amazing brand. They are, if you know the Maison Ferrand cognac folks, this is one of the kids in that house got into rum and founded this brand, and what they do is they initially started as basically rum sourcers. They would get rum from around the world, bring it back to France, age it and blend it in France according to like the cognac method, and then rebottle and sell. And then they started investing in distilleries, and now they're actually majority partners or own outright several distilleries around the Caribbean and are a major force in rum world today. They hired that guy, Matt Pietrak, to go look into this concept of Navy rum, which was what did the British sailors get every day from the 1600s till 1970 was the last day you got your rum ration. Turns out the British hired the same company to do it for 200 years. And so they researched it. And
so would this be considered would this be considered kind of since it's a British, kind of a pirate rum then, wouldn't it? It's not kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting rum from the majority is coming from Barbados. You're getting some from Trinidad, from Guyana, and some from Jamaica. And so you're getting almost like a blended cocktail experience within one rum that's not overproof, but 55.7 ABV. They
Love
do,
the bottle. Love the
yeah,
bottle.
the bottle's cool. It's a 700 milliliter bottle. They just came out with this. This runs about like $35.
Wow.
And yeah, they do add some sugar to this. There's some dosage, if you know that expression from like sparkling wine. This does add a little bit of sugar back into it to sweeten it out and kind of mellow it out. So I like it. To me, this is Christmas in a bottle. Like, I get the finish on this one is just endless baking spices that pair really well. My wife makes these molasses cookies that I can't eat enough of ever, and this to me is the liquid equivalent of those cookies, where I just get all these spices and like that rich molasses flavor. I love it. I love it. It's
Very
a really
nice.
good pairing. Yeah.
Very nice.
Right on.
Okay, drum roll,
So
please.
the official rum of Drinks and Dave's would be L from day number 1.
And what did you score that, Dave?
11. That was
I
tied for second with 2 others.
Yeah, see, to me, that was 5 all the way across the board. Yeah, it was perfect.
So you've got a Guatemalan rum here called Rum de Tapa. And the rum in here is aged between 6 and 23 years old. It's going to be a blend. They use the Solera system. So there's literally rows of casks, and as they empty some casks down, and then they blend, and then they empty down and blend and empty down. So they age it through a series of bourbon, sherry, Pedro Jimenez, I think, casks as well in here.
That explains why I like it, Dave. That explains it, because if you look at my Scotch collection, a lot of it is the Pedro Jimenez and
Yeah. So they do use cane, and then they do this high altitude. Their distillery is they say above the clouds, but it's a few thousand feet up in the Guatemalan highlands is where the distillery is for this place. And this, for a lot of people, is the rum they get into rum with. I will tell you, this is the gateway drug for a lot of people for the ultra high premium. This was my gateway drug. I got a guy, Wayne Curtis, came to New York where I live, and he gave a talk called Adventures in the Global Kitchen Rum. He was doing a book promotion for his book called And a Bottle of Rum, which I would recommend. I picked it up at the talk. And as he gave the talk, he gave out cocktails, which is most of the reason I went to the talk. And he tried to recreate historical cocktails using rums that matched the time periods, which was fun. But he ended with ultra premium modern rum, and this is the one he picked. And I said, "Ooh, this is good." And I went and looked for it, and it was like, at that time, it was probably $40 a bottle. Now it's a little more, but again, under $100 to get this rum that's been aged.
I can see myself getting a bottle of that in the second one. I really can. Steve had a question. Please post a list of the rums from the top 5 or 6.
I'm working on it, buddy.
Oh, are you doing it? Okay.
Yeah, and if you look at the email I sent to your wife, Nurse Dave, I have every rum listed there. I also have websites for them, so if they want to go check out the rums and potentially where to buy them locally, that's all there.
What we'll do is we'll post them. Dave, we can post those in the comments too of our video too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good idea.
That would probably be easier. That way everybody can see it. Now, is there a book, Eric, that you would recommend that talks about rum cocktails all the way from a daiquiri all the way down to the punches and stuff like that? Is there a book that you would recommend that people should pick up?
Again, it's so versatile. There's like so many things you can do with it. It depends on where your interest is. So, and a bottle of rum by this guy, Wayne Curtis, goes into the history, but also gives you drink recipes.
Okay.
That's fine if you like history and that kind of stuff. The Smuggler's Cove Tiki book is really well regarded by the world of drinks. This has a really wide variety of drinks. Basically anything by the guy, Jeff Beachbum Berry, Berry, Jeff Berry. I don't have his book on hand, but he has an amazing book that talks about it. If you look at David Wondrich's books, so he has 2, one called Imbibe, which is based on the Jerry Thomas guide. He teaches you how to make all the drinks basically in Jerry Thomas's very famous first bartender's manual from the US. And he has one called Punch. And amazingly, a ton of those drinks call for funky rum and for the rum at hand. Not a lot of people realize this, but there was way more rum being produced and drunk in the United States up to Prohibition than most any other distilled beverage. So
really? Wow,
we're drinking Yeah, we're drinking more rum than whiskey, more than bourbon. Americans were drinking rum very heavily. And if you look at the Prohibition era, the signs they're going is like they're fighting against demon rum. They're not fighting against bourbon and whiskey. They're fighting against rum, and that's because it was so prevalent and just used so often.
Is that where? Because I don't know if you noticed the poster that I put up for the show, and it was a cartoon where it shows a British nobleman, looking at the skeleton, saying, "You shouldn't drink rum; it's bad for you." No, it'll save the world. It'll do that. And then the British guy goes, "Well, yeah, but you're a skeleton." Is that kind of where that kind of comes from?
Yeah, that's the idea, is that, temperance movements around the world, in the English-speaking world, were focusing on rum because it's what we were drinking. It was really prevalent, really easy to make, and people were making it and drinking it and loving it and mixing with it. So if you pick up an older pre-prohibition cocktail guide, you'll see a lot of rum called for very frequently in those books. And all the tiki books call for rum a lot of times. So any of those books will get you cocktails.
I think we'd be remiss. This has been of the tastings that we've done. I think this has been the number one, the most educational. It's opened my eyes to things that, because when you're Puerto Rican, you're thrown two rums, Bacardi or Don Q. I mean, that's just what it is. So this opened up a lot of things. But let me ask you a question. When they talk about spiced rums, and I know that a lot of people think that the spiced rums are the bottom of the barrel, like Captain Morgan's and Sailor Jerry's and stuff like that. Where does that fit into this whole world of rums?
Yeah, I personally don't like them. I think where they fit in for me is you take an inferior spirit product and then you morph the flavor to get whatever you want. So, you're one step away from like artificial flavoring, though that's not really what they do. So the good ones are going to use real ingredients, actually infuse things in. So like you guys had that pineapple rum that you both disliked, and you both said it tasted fake and artificial. 100% those were real ingredients. Those are real pineapple cores. They use nothing artificial in that rum. But once you've tasted some real rum, you can see where any flavoring comes in, and you go like, "Whoa, what the heck is this stuff?"
Right.
So in my mind, the bad ones take inferior rum and then just like flavor the heck out of it to get something that's palatable. Usually they're overly sweet, and they spice away any fun, funky notes that you'd want. But people like it. People like their Captain Morgan. That's one of the better selling rums in the world. Malibu falls into that category. So Malibu is actually technically like a coconut liqueur that uses a cane-based spirit base, but most people wouldn't even call it rum, even though they do try to think they hide the word rum on the label somewhere. But it has nothing to do with what you guys have been drinking. And they do make a really good natural coconut rum where they take coconut husks and infuse it in the rum, and you can get those. I think it's called Cut and Dry. You can find those. So they make good flavored rums. I think, unfortunately, what most people think of as spice rum is bad rum that then just gets artificially flavored into this thing that's palatable, drinkable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, this has been fantastic. It was a great series, and
and we got to thank Eric again, not only taking the time to separate, hand deliver, but he sent all the notes, and my wife made up all the cards with the answers based on email he sent us. So a lot of time and energy went into this.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm happy I could do it. I mean, if I can be a little rum apostle, I'll be happy to spread the good news of rum, because as long as you guys like it, don't tell too many of your friends, because it's still cheap to buy hard to find bottles. And that'll change as the world turns its attention to rum. But
you just got a big fan, because I have a feeling that we're going to be going to somewhere to find the Cut and Dry coconut husk rum, because that's she'll like that. But also a quick program note: we will not be having a show on Monday the 30th. We're going to take that off for the new year. So our next show
in 2 days.
We won't. So our next show will actually be the 6th of January.
Next year. We'll see you next
year. So again, Eric, I can't thank you enough for doing this for us. This has been just absolutely fantastic. And I think everybody that joined us in the Barflies really enjoyed it. And if nothing else, somebody who's never, decided to go down the rum journey, so to speak. I think, at least I know for Dave and myself, it's something that I probably would not have thought of, and now, especially
100%.
these ones, we're going to be definitely looking at them. So we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to do it. Glad I could visit you both. It was wonderful to see you in
It was
person
fun
and deliver these things. And
exactly. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining us at Drinks and Daves. We'll see you again on the 6th, and we want to wish everybody a very safe and happy New Year. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.